So as we come to the end of this particular journey, there are some final thoughts I'd like to leave you with. I hope over the course of this course, you've come to some thoughts about what it is in the conflict and the tension in American history between liberty and equality. I hope this class has made you think about that and to recognize that to be absolutely free and absolutely equal is not going to happen in American history, and that one of the tensions that we have is trying to decide how to balance that. Another issue that I hope you've been able to work through is the notion of, when you look at equality, are we looking at equality of opportunity or equality of outcome? That is to say, should everybody simply be given a fair start on things and let it go wherever it might? Or is it the role of the government to actually make sure there is equity at the finish line as well, that there is equity in the results? And again, the balance in that throughout American history is something I hope you've looked at. Well, the last thing we're going to talk about is, what is the role for a Christian in politics? That is to say, do we have a different role than just your average non-Christian American citizen? Well, Scripture gives us at least one clear statement on this. In Romans 13, it says every person is to be in subjection to the governing authorities, for there is no authority except from God, and those that exist are established by God. This is a very clear statement, I think, about how Americans ought to behave with regard to elected officials. The Bible, I think, is very clear that one of the roles of a Christian is to behave in subjection to the authority over us. Now, you'll notice that that has nothing to do with whether or not we like the authority over us, or voted for the authority over us, or think the authority over us is doing a good job. That's not one of the choices that Scripture gives us. We are to be in subjection to that authority. We can exercise our political rights, of course, but when it's all said and done, I think one of the roles of a Christian is to obey the authorities placed over them. Let's broaden this a little more. Should a Christian always vote for a Christian candidate? Now, I'm not going to answer that for you. I just want to put that out there as a thought for you to consider. But if you are a believer, should you always vote for the Christian candidate? Or what if there is some tension in a case like our most recent election? I remember that we talked about, or the election of 2012, where it was President Obama running against Mitt Romney, who was a Mormon. Should a Christian vote for a Mormon? Can a Christian vote for a Mormon? If a Christian can't vote for a Mormon, should they simply abstain, or should they write in a different candidate? Is there some sort of requirement about this? What does your conscience tell you? What does Scripture tell you about this? These are things to think about, because I think there is some truths out there that are worth hashing through. As a Christian, are we required to always vote for the Christian candidate, or do we vote for the best candidate? Well, another thing, and we'll finish it up with this, we argue a lot about church and state. If, in fact, we engage in a debate about the separation of church and state, what does that mean about churches that endorse political viewpoints or political candidates? Does that violate church and state? Is it a matter of a one-way street or a two-way street? If we don't want the government telling us what to believe, do we have a responsibility not to tell people how to vote? Again, I'm not going to take a stand on that. That's not my job, but it is the kind of thing that I think is worth thinking about as you think about the role of the Christian in government.